Thank you, Aki. Thank you very much. So, I mean, you heard Harry speaking earlier. Harry talked about Ask Sarah, but I'm fortunate enough, I have Harry wherever I go, so I just ask Harry. It's much easier for me to get the answer directly for him because he loves technology. So, as most of you may or may not know, I'm South African, but I've been living in the UK for the last 8 years. And coming back to South Africa, one of the key things that struck me is the resilient nature of South Africans, the ability to have a sense of humor through any adversity, like load shedding, right? So when I landed here, it was a stark difference from when I left. But one thing I can tell you, at least you operate as if nothing's happened. Load shedding is just a thing in your life. In the UK, if 1 millimeter of snow falls, the country comes to a complete stop. British people don't know how to operate in that environment. Right? So I just want to tell you a quick story before I jump into my slides. So when I landed on Saturday, I decided I was going to go spend some time with my parents. And as I walked into my mom's house, she had a TV screen on and there was a timer on the screen. So I asked her, I said, Mom, what's the timer for? She said, well, I wanted to firstly make you feel a little bit at home because you haven't been here for a while. Because as you were growing up, you remember when the TV switched off, there was the SABC static pattern. So she said, when the timer switches off, everything switches off now, so that's the only difference, right? So I really found it fascinating and interesting in terms of how things have gone. So today, I'm going to step a little bit back. I'm not going to talk about what we as OpenText are doing in the deep stuff, but I want us to just focus on where we're going in this complex world in terms of where we're operating. Many of you will see that I've put my email address on my slides. Most of the marketing people tell me that's a mistake. Don't do that because you'll be flooded with email. But I'm passionate about hearing from our customers, our partners, and our colleagues in terms of what we believe is the right thing to do for our customers. So 2 years ago when we started international sales, the reason OpenText started international sales was we are a Canadian software company. So generally when we do stuff, it's through the mindset and the eyes of an American or a Canadian. But we operate in so many countries across the world where localization is really important for your business, right? So our CEO and CTO said, ask people what they want, come back and tell us what they need so we can create stuff locally. Obviously, I'm biased to South Africa because I'm from South Africa, so please use my email address. Tell me what you need as customers so we can make sure that you have it. So when we talk about Business 2030, you heard Harry say that we are all software companies, and I believe that wholeheartedly. So every business is now running on an application world, right? There's now a higher demand for sustainability in the digital world, which is driving the way people think, how people engage, how they create their ecosystems in the digital world. But also, we're working with a workforce that's completely different from my generation. So I'm not going to say my age, but I think I'm old enough to know that we're operating in a completely different time, right? So it's about instant gratification. So working today is a lot different from how it was back in time. It's also, since COVID or post the pandemic, it's about how we apply our human capital in an organization. Because as Harry said earlier, with AI, automation is happening at a faster pace. So companies are having to look at how they specifically deploy their human capital. And with all this, everything we're doing is run by information, right? Every single thing we do, every single thing we touch, information is everywhere. It's critical in the world that we operate in, both personally and in the business, because I think every single one of you here today, you use applications like Waze, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these things, there is information. So information is abundant, but in the enterprise world, it's critical. But it's also personal, right? Because with the advent of PCI and compliance, all of that personal information has to have a way that it is actually protected and that it makes sense for people. But a lot of the time, it's disjointed, it's siloed, because when we are doing things tactically, or as modern people like to say, we have an agile methodology of doing things, we don't really think of the end-to-end story of what we're trying to tell. That relates to insecurity in terms of how information is done because it's done on separate systems without an end-state architecture because it's just in time. And lastly, all of this leads to information not being compliant, right? And incompliancy today has a high cost. So the risk to enterprise in terms of compliance with regulatory standards means that there's an advantage, but there's also an added risk. So how you use information can either break your organization or make your organization. So today, I want to touch firstly on 3 real-life examples of how information has broken organizations. Every one of you here in the room, I'm sure, has heard of SVB Bank, okay? They didn't have a proper communication strategy around how they announced their results, and as a result of their inappropriate way of announcing their results, there was a run on the bank, and they almost filed for bankruptcy, and they're still going through some problems. Secondly, we all know the Pentagon, right? The Pentagon, one of their employees leaked top secret information on countries which could have had catastrophic impact in terms of how countries would go to war. Last but not least, we all know Samsung, we all know ChatGPT. So some Samsung employees leaked trade secrets on ChatGPT thinking they would just take a shortcut to what they needed to do. Without knowing it, they've exposed the trade secrets of Samsung out into the public. But on the positive side, let's look at how information can make a company. OpenAI was a company that was developed to create AI for good, for humanity, to make sure that there's a foundation and practice in terms of how we're using AI. I think when we look at the proliferation of AI in the world, there has to be some way to say things can be good, but things can also be bad. So we need to make sure that we're using it the right way. DeepMind. DeepMind is using AI and machine learning in pharmaceuticals to accelerate the production of vaccines and groundbreaking medications that are helping the world and helping people get better quicker. Last but not least, Salvera. We talk about offsetting your carbon footprint. Salvera helps companies make smarter decisions about their carbon footprint. So when we look at it, these are the technology stacks over the next couple of years that are going to be proliferating, that's going to be front of mind. So quantum computing, AI, customer journeys, all of these things are going to be front and center in terms of every single thing you do as an organization. But all of that is underpinned by information. And information is really at the center of what we do. So generating exponential amounts of information comes along with opportunity and great risk. So having said that, we are at the point of no return. So behind me, you'll see some of the jobs that we believe are at risk as a result of AI, artificial intelligence, the way it's been used. But I want to give you 2 real-world examples that I've noticed. Many of you would have gotten on an airplane in the last 10 years, okay? Back in the day, when an airplane landed, there would be a gentleman who was a chalk boy guiding the plane in, right, as it came in. Today, that's done by radar, okay? So those jobs are slowly moving away. I have the privilege of flying a lot to do my job, so a couple of months ago, I was in Saudi Arabia to do a talk with some of my colleagues, and my flight was delayed, so I got to the hotel in Saudi Arabia at just after midnight. I got checked in by a gentleman, and then he said, "This robot will escort you to your room," okay? The robot came to me and welcomed me into Saudi Arabia, spoke in Arabic, then spoke in English, and while we were walking to the elevator, was explaining to me all the amenities in the hotel that's available to me, what time the gym opens, where I can buy a waffle and a milkshake, and get room service. As it approached the elevator, it was using technology where the elevator knew that the robot was there, opened the door, I got into the elevator, I didn't have to press a single button, it knew where we were going. While we were walking, and as we got to my room, the robot said, "Would you like a cold drink?" and opened the fridge underneath to offer me a drink, right? So I think when you look at these sort of things, they really, really are driving the way the world is operating. So for me, it was phenomenal to get to experience these things in a real-world example. But when we look at the ones behind me, I think look at construction, right? So there's the positive and the negative, right? So construction, with 3D printing, they could print houses in a day, okay? Think about what that could do for for South Africa as a region where there are so many homeless people and there's been promises of houses being built quickly. If we start using 3D printing to print houses, we take away that problem almost immediately. How many of you know Neil Harbisson? By show of hands. Okay. Very few. So I encourage you, number one, to go read up on Neil Harbisson and go take a look at his TED Talk. So Neil Harbisson is one of the first people to start using what we call transhumanism. Okay? And transhumanism is using technology to augment and help you as a human being. So Neil is colorblind. He was born colorblind. Neil has an antenna attached to his skull, okay? And he's using bone technology to transmit sound that helps him interpret color, okay? So while that's groundbreaking, the most impressive part about Neil's story is Neil, in his TED Talk, when you listen to it, Neil actually says that when he goes to bed, he's actually starting to dream in color, right? Because the communication between how the sounds have been interpreted, his brain is actually starting to learn that. So when he sleeps, he dreams in color, which I think is really, really phenomenal because it will change the lives of millions of people using augmented technology to enhance your human capabilities. So while that may sound science fiction, while everyone say, yeah, but that may be so far away, I'm just going to switch to a quick video clip to show you what's already happening in the world that you live in.
The future will not be held in your hand, and it won't be on your face either. Sorry, this is my wife. Hello?
Hey, babe, are you a Ted?
Yeah, I'm on the red circle right now, actually.
Oh, great. Good luck, and don't forget to mention me.
I won't, babe. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. It's a new kind of wearable device and platform that's built entirely from the ground up for artificial intelligence. And it's completely standalone. You don't need a smartphone or any other device to pair with it. In fact, I'm wearing one right now. And it interacts with the world the way you interact with the world, hearing what you hear, seeing what you see. We like to say that the experience is screenless, seamless, and sensing. Say you're health conscious, or you have certain types of food considerations. Picked up one of these chocolates. Can I eat this?
A milky bar contains cocoa butter. Given your intolerance, you may want to avoid it.
My AI knows what's best for me, but I'm in total control. I'm gonna eat it anyway.
Enjoy it.
These examples are just the start. As AI advances, we will see how it will transform nearly every aspect of our lives in ways that will seem unimaginable right now.
Sorry. So we just, having seen that, I mean, it shows you the capabilities that they are. You'll find a QR code up on screen. We want to do a quick poll, so if you could take out your mobile phones, scan the QR code. As soon as you scan the code, it should tell you that you are connected. Okay, and we're going to have two questions, right, that are going to come up on your screen. Sorry, the question is not coming up yet. Okay. So the first question, to what extent are you willing to let AI take over tasks or responsibilities in your work? Please select an option that best suits your preference.
This is an interesting one, Suren. I mean, I don't know where this is going to go, and it's interesting because you've done this in various regions,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But it looks, well, 50% are saying I'm willing to let AI take over certain tasks. It was the chocolate, you see. She allowed him to have the chocolate. That's why there people are voting like that. But interesting.
But I think what's good here is to see that not everybody has the same view, right? There are people who are willing to do it. So I guess we're saying that over 50% of the people here will allow AI to take over responsibilities and tasks in the room. So that's gratifying to see that technology is being... You see what I mean?
See what we mean here, Harry?
Yeah. So that's exactly what I mean, because if this was the UK, the lights would come back on, there'd be no one in the room, right? So just give me a second to get everything back up. Okay, yeah. So well done for sticking
Okay.
it out, and we're back.
So more than half of people have said they're willing to let AI take over certain tasks or responsibilities, but they prefer to retain control over critical decision-making aspects.
Yeah.
Is chocolate a critical decision-making aspect is the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. So that's the first question. Second question, when considering new AI technologies and wearable devices, which factors are most important to you? So please rate them below, with options 1 being the most to 5 being the least.
Well, this is an interesting one because this one can go either way.
Yeah.
So I see the millennials have already voted there.
And I think,
Oh, wow, look at that. Okay.
that's interesting. So this survey or these questions have been asked in at least 5 or 6 different countries, and I think it's unanimous that people still value data privacy and security, but are willing to let AI take over things in their life where you have to relinquish some of that data privacy and security.
Yeah.
So I think,
And look at the affordability. I mean, that doesn't even come into play. Obviously, all the Apple people said they want more integration. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Thank you, Aki. So I guess, when we look at something, we all get excited about it, right? And we want to embrace it same time, without the considerations or impacts that it have in our lives. So I think on an individual basis, that may be fine. But I think as large enterprises and organizations, the one thing we need to do is have that in our mind all the time. Data, privacy, but how do we embrace the technology in a way that helps us grow as organizations? Because in the end of the day, everything that we're doing as organizations are about customer and employee experience, right? So everything's about intimacy, intelligence, consistency, responsiveness, but most of all, it's about efficiency. And here, I want to use another real-life example because I believe that almost every person in this room at some point of your life, when you traveled to Europe, you'd have either connected through Heathrow Airport, or if you were traveling to the east, you'd have connected through Dubai Airport. Both airports are using technology. Both airports have different priorities. What I'm going to show you next are actual pictures that I've taken from every week when I fly and I go back home to the UK. That's what I get. 4 hours standing in a queue with my South African passport, irrespective of if I'm a resident or not, because that hasn't been a priority. Whereas with a South African passport, connecting through Dubai Airport, the first time I went through, they did a facial scan, and ever since then, I could walk through just doing a facial scan without speaking to a single individual, which made my connections and flying times so much easier. So when I actually regret having to jump back on a plane to go back to Heathrow tomorrow, because that's what I'm looking forward to. But I guess this shows you that it's applied science, right? It's applied technology, and it's where you're using it that's actually going to make the difference for your customers, because their experience is a one-off, right? Because loyalty today is fickle. You have a bad experience on an airline, you have a bad experience with a company, there are 500 other people doing the same thing. So it's about how you make sure that you embrace your audience and you capture your customer, because capturing your customer is the most important thing. But when we talk about the history of the future, with the advent of the computer in the 1800s, guess what? We were already collecting information from the 1800s, okay? But over time it evolved, it was still siloed, but in the end of the day, everything we did amounted to 3 things. It needed to be simple, it needed to be available, and it needed to be intelligent, okay? But intelligence evolved, because in the past, as long as we could identify where the data set was, we didn't care. Today, data is structured, so now we want to apply intelligence to the structured data to make sure that it's smarter. And that's why at OpenText we call that Smarter with OpenText, because it's really about enhancing your modern work experience, digitizing your supply chains, and unleashing your developer power, and obviously building a more resilient organization, especially in this geopolitical world that we're operating in. Resilience as organizations are super important. Now, when we look at this slide, I think every single one of you can relate to it. The three main systems that everybody I can speak loudly about is Workday, Oracle, and SAP. Every single person in this room has one of those footprints. But the one thing, they're all disparate, they're disjointed, and what does it do? It creates digital friction for your employees, for your people in your organizations. And our goal as companies and as leaders in a business should be to remove digital friction from how employees are engaging to make them more productive. That's why Harry spoke about it in a different context. I've just replaced a few words to say smarter information is our content cloud. Security is our security cloud. Smarter digital operations is the digital ops space. So we have a plethora of clouds on our single cloud platform. And as Harry mentioned earlier, the OpenText cloud runs on any hyperscaler and is available anywhere for your preference, okay? So today, you have the availability and you have the options of what you want to do within the OpenText cloud. But as all of you are key stakeholders in a business, sorry, I'm having a problem with my clicker today. Okay, sorry. As a CEO, as most of you know, 5-6 years ago, this was the most important person in the organization, right? He made the decisions, he helped drive the budget, he helped drive the discussions around implementation. But we just spoke about the digital world that we're in. So for a CEO to be successful, he needs key specialists that can drive domain expertise across his business stack, right? You heard Harry speak about the business value stream and the digital value stream. That's equally important in an organization in terms of how you determine your success. Obviously, the domain experts in the business value stream, their sole KPI and goals is profitability, time to market, ability to capture an audience, right? On the digital value stream, they're equally important, but theirs is about how you drive your IT infrastructure, stand up your application stacks. So these are the kind of things that are helping the business drive the profitability, because efficiency in your IT space will drive the profitability on your business side of the world. So I'm going to touch on 3 of these because I think they're really important. When you look at someone called the knowledge worker, their sole purpose in life is to find, collaborate, and process information in the organization. The CX manager is all about experience because experience transcends just the customer. Experience is also about your employee, okay? A happy employee who has a good experience at work projects a good experience to your customer. In most organizations, people pay the least amount of attention to a call center, right? Yet, the call center or contact center are your first point of contact to the outside world. Those are the people that customers get to experience first. So if they have a poor customer experience, like when you call ESCOM to find out when your electricity is coming on, you understand how long you have to wait on the phone for something like that, right? No disrespect to anyone from ESCOM in the room. Yeah. And then obviously the application manager is becoming more and more important because it's around modernizing applications that have been legacy, creating new applications that drive your business in a new way. And last but not least, cybersecurity. Everything starts with cybersecurity and also ends with cybersecurity, right? Because it's an evolving and continuous process. It's how you protect, secure your environment. As you all stated when Aki asked how many of you are working from home, many of you are still working from home. So as organizations, we have a responsibility to cater for employees who work from home and employees who work from the office, giving them the same experience, but protecting our organization. And I think that, for me, is the most important thing. But there are multiple ways we can get started because not all of us are on the same playing field as we are in different parts of our world, okay? So transforming to the cloud, for your business, it's your choice in terms of how you do it. Growing your user engagement, that's about delivering an experience, right? Because you have a poor experience, you get poor engagement. I don't know, many people here may use Instagram, and everybody is trying to be an influencer, right? So when you use an Instagram, you're looking at your engagement, you're looking at the people who are communicating with you, so it's all about what experience you give your customer. not lastly, most importantly, it's about simplifying your security stack, right? Because those are the things that we need to be doing as organizations, and also bringing high-quality, secure digital applications to the market. Because bringing an application to the market is one thing, but making sure that it's secure, that it caters for your business need, and doesn't have the ability to bring your business down is what should be front and center for you as companies in South Africa. And then last but not least is creating a high-performance digital business ecosystem, because everything today is digital, right? I mean, I don't know when last anybody went to a physical bank and drew cash out of a bank. Everything is either tap and go. I think South Africa has some unique apps that you use. Apple Pay is one of them that we use prolifically. But these are the things that are driving the ecosystem. So, you know, it's all about the digital business that gives you engagement from a customer perspective. So, as OpenText, we give you the choice. You could be on cloud, you could be off cloud, you could be in the public cloud. We don't care, okay? Because it's your choice. But we want to make sure that you have the ability to decide where you want to be. But we make sure that we are responsible by creating and embedding key things that drive sustainability from your digital ecosystem. We're also using large language models in terms of AI as part of the solution set, so you don't have to worry about it. You could stand up any one of those large language modules to deliver what you need. As Harry spoke about the aviators, the program is designed to make sure that you have AI at the heart of everything that you're doing, and the insights and data will drive how you do things in an organization. Okay. We spoke about, I don't like to speak about recently acquired, but we're 7 months into the acquisition of Micro Focus, and already we are so confident in terms of the solution sets that the Micro Focus side of the house have brought into the business, that we've already embedded some of these technology stacks in our cloud offering that's being used by our customers. But we believe that we need to use our own technology first, okay, before we can convince you to do it. But having said that, we also have the ability to migrate you into the cloud and out of the cloud. Hopefully, once you get into our cloud, you'll never leave. But we want to make sure that you have the choice. So at OpenText Migrate, when you choose to leave, that's a free process for you to extract your data. Because I think one of the challenges most people had is that once the data was in the cloud, they believed they were hooked. And I think the very simple example, if whoever has an Apple phone will remember when iTunes started, your first portion was free. And slowly, as you added, you got hooked and you can't leave the ecosystem, right? But today, it's up to you. It's how you want to do it. So we've embedded our service management solutions into it. We've done our voltage for encryption, and obviously our key identity management from security perspective. So these are the things that we are doing as an organization to make sure that you have a complete offering from a solution set. Because not everybody is at the same place in their journey. Some people prefer to remain on-premise for many, many reasons. We have some clients who don't believe any cloud is secure, right? But I think that's a mindset, and it's a change internally that they have to go through. So these are the things that we help in do, because if you have the ability to test, verify, validate, over time, you will make sure that it is what you want it to be. In the end of the day, the future of information management is AI-driven. It has to be security-enabled, and it also should be multi-cloud, because nobody wants to have a single point of failure, right? But that's the tech part of the conversation. We should, at the heart of what we're doing, be using data for good, right? And as an OpenTexter, I am super proud of companies like the UNHCR that are using our technology to help refugees enter countries, because a lot of you would have seen on the news, people who enter countries have no papers. They've lost everything. They have no form of identity. They have no ability to get a bank account. None of those things. The UNHCR is using technology to use your facial scan to identify who you are, to get you credibility in the country to deliver it. CARE is helping eradicate poverty, right? And I think all of us should be passionate about eradicating poverty, because if we enrich the lives of our fellow people, everybody benefits from that. Last but not least, one thing that I'm really, really proud of is the University of Pretoria are using our technology stack to provide high-quality education to students. If you're interested in learning more of that, you could hear about it from Charles Joubert in the Digital Values breakout session later on today. But most importantly, I think something that all OpenTexters can be proud of is what Tsepa, Tabiso, and the rest of the South African team have done in terms of saying, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk, okay? So we've proudly created what we call in the OpenText Sadiba Digital Graduate Academy. What the academy is doing is we fund students who come into the organization, we train them, we enable them, but we've also partnered with some of our customers, and I mean, this program's been running 2 years, so the customer list that you see up here is for FY24. We've had other great partners in the past, but the idea around this is all of these customers are using our technology. What we spoke about earlier is creating technology stacks for the future on an OpenText platform, but it's all great only if you have the ability to support it. So what we are trying to do is create the support mechanism for you as organizations who are loyal customers to us, who are using our technology stack, and this is something that we're going to be doing every day. So we've launched a program in Gauteng and Western Cape, with KwaZulu-Natal closely to follow. And here are some pictures of some of our students with some of our leadership teams in both Gauteng and the Western Cape. And I think I had the privilege of meeting some of our graduates in this past week while I was there. And I was blown away by the enthusiasm to learn something that in my day would not interest me at all, okay? The questions I was asked made me realize that, I'm fortunate enough to be able to answer these things for people, but they are challenging us in ways that we don't understand, okay? And this is going to help us drive it, because there's no point in doing all the enablement and being educated, but not having any real-life experience in terms of deployment, execution, managing these solution sets, the integration of how it works in your organization. So when these graduates are finished in a year, they are going to be far more employable than anyone coming straight out of university, okay? And that is our responsibility as companies, is to make sure that graduates have a fighting chance to have a job in this country, so not everybody, as soon as they qualify, jumps on a plane to find a job in another part of the world, right? So this is how we're trying to give back. And with that, I want to wrap up with this picture, right? This is actually my godchild. Her name is Alara, okay? But why I'm using this picture is because it's not staged. It's actually what she was doing. She's 2 years old, okay? But it gives you an idea that this is the workforce of the future, okay? We had generational challenges when we were bringing people into our workforce. That's not with this generation. Generation Alpha, they've already adopted technology as part of their life. It's their daily life. There's no line between what they do. So I guess what I'm trying to illustrate here is, as companies, we need to have people like Alara front and center when we're doing things. Because this is the workforce that, whether we like it or not, we are going to attract, all right? And they are the ones that are going to drive ingenuity and creativity in the organization. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. I was super excited to talk to a South African crowd for once. It made me really happy. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.